teach us how to dress to impress.
Before I talk about my speech, I want to ask all of you guys, based on how I present myself right now, how do you think I will act for the next 10 minutes? Chances are, many of you guys are thinking, this guy is crazy.
Yes.
Or
Yep.
am I? But how would you guys know? I mean, I've never known you and you've never known me, so how do you know if I'm crazy or not? Or were the assumptions you made about me solely based on my clothing? When I was in 4th grade, I tried coming to school looking like this because I was ready to show everyone that I was this rebellious, uncontrollable little kid who went against the school's clothing and dress code. But the moment I stepped foot into my class, my teacher, this looming giant to this 4-foot little kid, looked straight at me in the eyes and said, "Jake, take that off right now or you're going to the principal's office." And so I had nothing to do but to slowly take off my clothes.
Whoa.
But I also realized how prevalent it was for our society to judge how others will act solely based on how they look. A few years ago, my dad talked about a lady named Elizabeth Holmes. She was an entrepreneur who claimed to have invented a device that could detect cancer, diabetes, high blood cholesterol, and many other diseases from just a few samples of blood. Her company, Theranos, was able to garner over $425 million in capital, all for it to be a fraud. But Elizabeth was able to convince her investors because of how she presented herself to them. She always wore a black turtleneck and was even hailed to be the next Steve Jobs. She also lowered her voice to become a baritone, so that when she spoke, she would convey confidence and authority. These unconscious biases affect a lot more than just fraudulent companies. I mean, consider this. Attractive people tend to make 10 to 15% more than their equally skilled colleagues, making about $230,000 more at the end of their career. The truth is, unconscious bias is universal. And although it seems like we can't do much about it, this is actually far from the truth. We could actually harness these biases for our own benefits, just like Elizabeth Holmes, but more ethical. So what I wanted to address was how to dress to impress. So here, I want to mention my 2 simple points: how to dress to impress others in professional spaces, and how to dress to impress your significant other in dating spaces. There was a paper published in 2012 by Dr. Adams and Dr. Glinsky in the Journal for Experimental Social Psychology. They found that white lab coats are usually worn by doctors or scientists, occupations that require a lot of critical thinking and attention. So this led them to wonder, would wearing these lab coats enable people to embody these characteristics of critical thinking and attention just like doctors and scientists? And so they did an experiment. They gathered undergraduate participants and separated them into 3 groups. Group 1 was told to wear a white lab coat and was told it was a painter's coat. Group 2 was given the same coat but was told it was a doctor's. And Group 3 was given the white coat but was instructed not to wear it and instead leave it on a nearby desk. Next, all 3 groups were given identical pictures with slight differences and were asked to write down those differences. They found that Group 2, the group who believed to be wearing a doctor's coat, were able to find the most. Adams and Glinsky found that when people wore clothing made for generally more attentive people, they were able to embody those characteristics. We might have certain clothes that, when worn, show a different side of who we are. I know this is true for me. I'm in my school's Model United Nations class, and I know that when I wear my suit, I feel like a whole different person. The point is, wear clothes that makes you feel more confident and assertive. For example, if you know that you're going to attend an important meeting and you know wearing red makes you more assertive, then go for it. We all have our own figurative lab coats that, when worn, show a different side of who we are, which can end up impressing others as a result. This goes into my second point. I mean, there's a reason why people don't wear white lab coats to dates. I mean, although it may increase your critical thinking levels, it also increases less approachability. This Columbia research paper further talks about this too. They talk about how, although wearing formal clothing may increase professionalism, it also talks about how wearing formal clothing may also increase less approachability. On the contrary, wearing casual clothing increases intimacy and familiarity. There was an experiment done by Cedarville University where they had participants rate whether a male or female model was more attractive based on 3 types of clothing: hipster, athletic, and classy styles of clothing. They found that participants ranked models wearing hipster and athletic styles as more attractive. This is because hipster and athletic styles are more related to casual forms of clothing which show intimacy and familiarity. They also found this study suggested that wearing casual clothing makes and tends to make us look more attractive. Here's a bonus. Participants also found individuals wearing similar clothing to them as more attractive. Here, I want to introduce you to another term: affinity bias, or the tendency to warm up or gravitate to the people who are similar to you. The results from this experiment are directly correlated with affinity bias, as participants found individuals wearing similar clothing to them as more attractive. So, the next time you go on a date, ask a close friend what your partner is going to wear and dress similar to them. Although I can't speak from experience, unfortunately. It'll be more statistically likely that this will be true. And so, I want to leave you guys with this. No, it's not just a blank screen, but for each pixel in this screen represents one person. And this is approximately how many people you'll meet in your lifetime. Between 90,000 to 42 million faces. And chances are, you're not going to be friends with 42 million people, so it's best to leave good impressions with the people who you don't know. Pattern recognition is embedded in our fundamental nature as human beings. And our brains are wired to process visual cues quickly, instinctively analyzing features such as facial expression or clothing to assume social perception. So, I want to encourage everyone to take a long, hard look at that screen and ask yourself, how many of those small, seemingly insignificant interactions we have with strangers every day ultimately contribute to the positive impressions we leave on others throughout our lifetime? What we can't do is change the past, but what we can do is dress for the future. Thank you.